Welcome to another installment of the Headwind Guy. I'm Matt, the Headwind Guy. Today I thought we'd talk a little bit about dial thermometers. Have one here. This is one of Headwind's dial thermometers. We have a beach scene here. It's kind of a cool little scene, relaxing. Wish I was on a beach right now. It's nice and hot, as you can see. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about the thermometer itself, how it works, and also how to calibrate it, which is probably a common question for a lot of people, as sometimes they can come out of calibration when they are being shipped to the store or shipped from overseas. So let's take a look at the unit first here. So come on in here, take a closer look at the thermometer. What you'll notice here, obviously there's the scene here, and there's 20 some odd different designs. There's white, there's ones with hygrometers which do humidity, but this one just has a photograph on it, and the photograph is actually heat transferred to the plastic, so it won't ever peel or warp or anything like that, which is nice. So it doesn't matter if it goes underwater, anything like that, it would still not change the face at all. They are, we do add UV resistance to them, but eventually the sun will make them fade. Usually they will start to fade. You'll notice the fade after about 3 years, but that's only if it's in direct sunlight. And obviously you do not want to mount these in direct sunlight because they will register hot all the time. So if you see here, you have a -60 reading to 120. So that's a pretty hot day. Today it's in the 90s here, and so it's a hot one. But before we get into too much, let's take a look at the back actually. One thing you'll notice here, you have kind of keyhole almost hangers, which is nice. There's 2 of them, so if you want to just hang it on the top one, you can do that. Obviously 2 would be recommended for stability. There will be wind and it'll shake on your house. Don't want it to make too much noise there. One little neat feature here is there's actually a key hider. So if you want to hide a key instead of putting it in a rock, you can definitely put it on your thermometer, get it off that way. And then you have the metal coil. So that's underneath this white thing here. The coil, how a thermometer works, it actually is a mechanical process, and that coil is 2 different types of metal, and they're chemically bonded together, and they have different expansion and contraction rates. So as the coil heats up, it'll uncurl or curl tighter depending on the temperature change, and the arrow here is connected to it, and so it will either rotate hotter or colder based on what that temperature is. So one of the most important things is to make sure it is calibrated when you get it to your house. You take it out of the package. Let's make sure it's calibrated properly. The easiest way to do that is to take it in your house, let it sit there for about 15 minutes, and you can look at your thermostat on your house and it will tell you the temperature, which is nice. So it'll be somewhere in the 60s or 70s most likely, and you'll know that's a known temperature. And after 15 minutes, the coil will get used to that. And one thing that used to be a little bit of a pain was calibrating them. 3 or 4 designs ago, you'd actually have to take this whole lens off, unclip it, you'd actually have to pull the arrow off, and then you'd have to push it back on at the right temperature. What we did was we made it super simple to do. And so if we look at the back here, the cover actually just has this little disc. And so if we have a known temperature and we want to change it, it takes a little bit of a grip, and it just kind of clips in here. And if it does get tight, you can always use a screwdriver, and you just kind of gently shove it along whichever direction it needs to go, and it will kind of rotate as it goes. Sometimes if you give it a little pull out away from the unit, it makes it easier to spin too. But you'll notice now I made it 100. So if we want to turn it back, it's being a little difficult, but we're basically going to spin it this way or spin it this way. So we can spin it either direction to the right temperature, or if you want to use a screwdriver and just kind of push it along, you can do that as well. But just rotate this disc, and that will change the temperature. So key things here, you want to make sure you have a known temperature and that your thermometer has been able to acclimate to that temperature. And when that's done, you just turn this dial to the correct temperature and leave it hanging. It will stay calibrated as long as there's no like vibrations over time. So once it's set, you're good to go, and it should be good for a long period of time. Again, make sure you mount them out of direct sunlight so they don't register hot. Under an eave, on a wall, something like that, on your siding, in the shade is usually the best place to put them, someplace out of direct sun. So hopefully that's helpful to you today in calibrating your dial thermometer. Thanks.